Hi folks, welcome to episode 16 of the Healing Hut. I was just thinking this morning that one of the most frustrating problems I have in my cottage work is not finding enough time. You would think that me being retired, it would be easy. But here it is, after 10 minutes after 11, I'm just getting up here for the first time today. And it's got to do with so many things on my to-do list. And I'm going to just give you my typical rundown, my schedule. This is typical. It's not every day. There's always interruptions. But I typically wake up about 2 in the morning and for about an hour. I really like to write. I have a blog, and I've written 5 or 6 books. I can't remember, and I want to write about 5 more while I'm on Earth, if I could. I don't know if I can. So I do writing from 2 to 3. Then I go back to bed, usually get up about 7. Get up, eat breakfast, watch news, see what's going on in the world. Do some stretches. Then I take my St. Bernard on a 2-mile hike. So that takes, a good hour time. We drive to the trailhead and hike and get back. So now we're talking about going on 9:30 or 10. And then my wife works full-time, so I got a lot of house cleaning that I have to do every day. I usually start with the kitchen, working that, cleaning up the kitchen. The whole time I'm thinking, I want to get to the cottage so bad. And then I try to get out here, get an hour or 2 work in. I don't really eat lunch much, so I'll run back in and rest, put my body parts that are hurting on ice for 30 minutes, and then try to come back out in the afternoon and work another 2 or 3 hours. But there's so many other things on the agenda. There's medical appointments, and there's times I'm ill that makes it really slow. I'm doing, as I said on my last episode, I'm doing pretty well now, but there's a period of a couple of months that I was ill every morning for a while, and I just slowed things down. So on this episode, I'm going to be doing some of the same things. I'm going to finish up wiring, I hope. You'll see me, I'll actually film me wiring up my breaker box, my breaker panel. I have to be very, very careful for that. Not only do I have to get it right, but one of the big fears I have, so you'll have a 50-foot strand of wire going through the cottage to the breaker panel, and you have the end inside the breaker panel. If you wire it up incorrectly, you may, at worst case scenario, go back and have to replace that whole 50-foot of wire to make it long enough to rewire it in a different way. So I think through these wiring schemes over and over and over how I'm going to set things up in my box. And I've watched a lot of YouTube videos on how to wire electrical panel, and I think I finally have it figured out. And I'll do that. I'm going to start working today, I hope, on the kitchen wiring. And that's going to be a little bit complicated. I'm putting in 3-way lights, and I've never done that before. I have to watch some YouTube videos, of course. And then I'm going to get back to putting siding on, maybe tomorrow. And I'm going to show you something I discovered just the other day. It was, I went up to reorganize my old siding, and it was a mess. I bought this siding probably 3 years ago when they were tearing down this structure, old 100-year-old structure. And I got this siding for really cheap. And then I put it in the woods, covered it up with tarps, and got all these leaves and junk on it. And I didn't know how much siding I had. Good morning, goaties. So I came up here and sorted out my siding. It was short siding, short boards, and long boards. And I separated them out. I still got some short boards under there. But to my amazement, I had far more siding than I realized. And I've been skimping using boards that were pretty rough. And I'm going to go down and tear some of those down because I have plenty of boards now to only do what I'm working on now, but do the other wall. And plus I have this big pile of short boards that I will use somewhere. So that's the things I plan on doing this week. So thanks for coming along again. I always appreciate the company. Good morning, goaties. How you guys doing? Hey, Archie. Are you ignoring me? Archie. Well, today I'm going to, hopefully today and tomorrow, finish my wiring. I still need some more wire, but you'll see me working on the box today and also drilling holes. So as soon as I get more wire in, I'll be ready to go. I was thinking this morning, again, trying to keep your interest, because this is certainly not a how-to video of how to build a cottage, because you'll notice I don't know what I'm doing half the time. But I was thinking about this role of cancer and how it fits into a cottage. Each time I do one of these videos, I like to leave just a little segment of thought. One of the things I did not realize before I became very sick, and I was a medical provider for 38 years, is how profound an insult it is to someone's self-esteem to become very, very sick. Now, I imagined it, I guess, when I've seen someone, I worked in neurology, I'll see someone in their 40s, young and healthy, have a stroke, and they're paralyzed. I can understand that profound insult to your self-esteem. And I've seen people who've had terrible burns, disfigurement burns to their face or body, or other disfigurements. And it just didn't dawn on me how difficult the battle for self-esteem is as big as the battle against cancer itself. It may not be true for everyone, but even the process of aging, when you get really sick with something like, what I do with cancer, it's like you age 20 years overnight. Suddenly you're very weak, you lose your hair, you lose your job, you lose all your friends, and every morning you start to think that I'm completely worthless. I have no purpose in this world anymore. I didn't realize how much of my self-esteem came from my work. I had patients every day telling me great things, of things I've helped them with and all that, and now I have none of that. None of that. I don't have, I was a hermit for over 2 years, only left the house for medical appointments. I try to get out a little bit now, but my social world has collapsed completely. People make little comments, and they don't realize how hard criticisms are when you spend every day fighting for cancer, fighting to just function. It's hard every day to function, and then to be criticized. I just don't take it very easy, very, very well. Anyway, I'll be quiet about that. I went down to get a little snack. I'm going to hook up my kitchen line here. That's what you're going to see me do. I'm going to put my snack down. And then I got the loft. And then I have a heat pump, and then I am done. morning. It is 10 o'clock. I'm in my cottage ready to work. But I got up at 4:45, got some writing done, had a little breakfast, took my dog for a walk on the beach, got her back home, and here I am, ready to go again. But I want to show you something to try to explain why wiring can get so complicated. If you can see this area here, I have 3 wires going into this post, 2 of them coming out on this side, the big stove wire going continuously. It took me at least 4 hours to do this. I think more, because drilling these holes and then getting these wires threaded, 2 wires coming 90 degrees out and 1 wire going all the way through. But halfway in the middle of this, I hit something metal, probably a nail or a screw. It made it very, very difficult drilling the holes. And I chiseled and worked. But that's kind of things that slow me down a bit. I just want to show you that. Today I'm getting ready to work on siding. Anyway, you have a good day. So my process is I select the boards from the pile, and I'm selecting probably 80% of them, 20% I'm sort of tossing to the side. I bring them down, I inspect them. I first pull out all the nails, and then I go over it with a drill with a brush to clean off the wood. Then I'm going to look, this is what I'm going to do, it's sort of new, is I'm going to look for any damaged parts and cut that off, or try to repair it with a waterproof glue. And then I put Thompson's water seal on the whole board, inside and out, and then I stack it to dry, and then I use it. So that's what you'll be seeing me doing today. Hi folks, well, I've got a lot done. It's so hard to show what I've gotten done, but I've been working on electrical. Today is a very important day because I will do my very last circuit, which is a circuit out to the heat pump. So I got the loft all wired in. You can see the outlets. I have a smoke detector. I have overhead lights hooked to a 3-way light. This all took a lot of work. I had to suspend myself above this drop off to work in that corner. That took a good hour to drill the holes. Anyway, did that, and then my last electrical circuit down here were my 4 circuits. Each of those took an hour to dig out correctly and get it wired up correctly. I do need I'm going to put some mortar in around it to clean up that empty space. I'll do that in the next few days. And this one over here is done as well. So I'm going to go outside and make sure I know where my electrical circuit to the heat pump goes. By the way, I have my heat pump. I haven't started looking at videos how to install this yet, but I will. I've got my hot water heater, which is a tankless hot water heater. Here's the heat pump inside unit. And what's really important is that when I put my box outside, I got to make sure I put it in the right place. I've got some electrical cable that goes from the box to the heat pump. And the compression cable, this white stuff here, is 25 feet long. And my biggest nightmare would be to put in the electric box and then put in the heat pump there, and the heat pump pipes for the compressed gas would not reach the inside unit. That would be a nightmare. So I'm trying to measure this very, very carefully, try not to make a mistake there. That's what I'm doing today. We are doing the final wiring. This big cable here will go to my heat pump. I've got it wired into my, this is called a disconnect. It's required. It's a place that you can quickly disconnect your heat pump if somebody needs to work on it. This is required by code too. It's just a regular electrical plug-in, because if somebody needs to work on a heat pump, they might want electricity for their tools, I guess is the reason for that. So what I'm doing now, and this is my very last thing, is I'm going to get this plug-in prepped as per code. And then this wiring will be done. It's taken me 6 weeks to wire this cottage, and one day a couple of weeks ago I had 2 people in a row. When I told them that, they act like, what's wrong with you? Said 6 weeks to wire a little cottage? And it's hard. I mean, it's hard work, drilling holes and pulling wire and doing all these circuits and all these things. I mean, I started up in the ceiling, which took a lot of time to get the wires way up there 20 feet. So that was difficult. And then, you know, working on this cottage is not the only thing I do. I have a lot of medical appointments. This week I spent Monday in the hospital doing chemotherapy. I have housework I need to do, you know, so anyway. And I was going to finish up. I started this conversation about low self-esteem that comes along with illnesses such as cancer. And I think a lot of people struggle with self-esteem issues, and they don't talk about it. There are a lot of things that people don't talk about, especially men, because it makes them look weak. But like with my cancer, you know, I do get up and take my medications. I take a lot of supplements. And I exercise. Working on the cottage helps me exercise. I do some stretches and things in the morning. But part of my cancer battle now is a mental exercise. And it sounds silly, but I have to get up and tell myself I have some value. Christian friends tell me that you know, you're creating God's image and that's all you need to know. Well, it's not that simple emotionally if you're really honest about it. It's you know, you can say something, but to really believe it is something else. So I have to tell myself that I have value and there's a reason for me to live. I have children, I have a wife that need me, and I have to go through this conversation with myself just so I don't find myself. It's not really self-pity. It's just, you know, you go from being a medical provider, which I was. I mean, not a medical provider, but a financial provider for your family, which I was, which I did by being a medical provider. And then all of a sudden, rather than bringing money home, you're costing society. I mean, my insurance company probably spends nearly $1 million a year keeping me alive. Am I worth that? I always think back to Saving Private Ryan. Private Ryan, the last scene is he's an old man, and he's at the cemetery in France, and he just in tears asked his family, because he knows of all the men who gave their lives to protect him, to bring him out of France. And he was looking at their graves, and he asked his wife and his children who were with him, has my life been worth it? And that's the kind of question I have to ask myself now every day. Is it worth me staying alive? It was a little bit difficult when I was first diagnosed and I was in ICU, and all these things were happening to me 5 years ago. I had a lot of wonderful nursing staff, no question about that, but one brand new nurse, and I'll never forget it. She must have been 20, just out of school. And I know I must, I was 64 at the time, and I guess she thought that was really, really old. And I was just, they're telling me at the time that my life may be ending because they couldn't get my potassium down. They told me to call my kids in to say goodbye and prepare my funeral just in case and all this. It's a shock to go from healthy, you thought you were healthy, and a couple of days later been in that shape. And she said to me, you've lived long enough. You don't have to do any of these treatments, there's an option, there's a way to get out of this. I said to her, so you're suggesting I do medical suicide on day 2 of my diagnosis? She said, well, I'm just telling you that's an option. Really? And so you feel so worthless. I'll say one other thing about this. I began having dreams almost every single night about working at Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, because I worked there for 5 years as a headache specialist in the Department of Neurology. Our Department of Neurology at Mayo in Rochester, Minnesota was voted #1 Department of Neurology in the whole world. Every year I was there, and I think I'm not saying I contributed to that, but it was true. So here I am working in the #1 Department of Neurology in the world, and my boss and the other doctors I worked with were complimenting me every day. Mike, you're so important. We're so glad you're here. You're so good at this and blah, blah, blah. And then the last conversation I had in my medical career was here locally. The previous hospital administrator told me that once I was done with my bone marrow transplant, my job would be waiting for me. So I was done with my transplant and I came back to work, and the new hospital administrator wanted to see me first before I started working, to see patients. And I wasn't doing very well. I was still in a lot of discomfort. My bone marrow transplant had not worked. But he sat me down. He said, Mike, are you 100%? And I had to be honest, say, no. He said, I don't think we need you here anymore because you no longer bring value to our organization. So that was the fall in my career, from this place where #1 Department of Neurology in the world telling me I was doing a great job and you're wonderful, you're so important to this department, all the way down to the end of my career. Because I have cancer now, the local little hospital, a podunk hospital compared to Mayo Clinic, telling me that I brought no value to their organization anymore because I was sick. So that's the kind of thing you struggle with self-esteem. And I think, and I know, cancer patients who have struggled with that. I know cancer patients who committed suicide by cancer, just stopping their treatments. Why? Because they feel, what purpose? I have no value. I don't earn income. I'm not raising children now. And like that nurse, that one nurse, she sort of concurs with that. You have no value now that you have cancer. So anyway, part of my daily routine, besides physical and taking my medicines and supplements and stretching, is I have to go through this mental exercise and said, if no one else in the world thinks I have value, I have to say I have value. And not just that I'm creating God's image, but I still have kids. I have a wife that love me, and for their sake. If I didn't have kids or a wife, I think I would have committed suicide by now. And it's not, people go, oh, you're that depressed. Well, it's not depression. There's things that are worse than death. And I was so sick a few years ago that I wanted out of it. I begged God every day to end my life. So I don't think I would have fought to hang on. I asked my kids when I was in ICU, and they're saying it looks grim. My renal failure, my cancer, all these things look really grim. And I asked my kids, should I fight this? And they said unanimously yes. So anyway, that's just some thoughts, and I think it's true. I'm sharing this not for self-pity, please. I said, give me grace to let me talk about cancer without... People always tell me, Mike, I think you're feeling sorry for yourself. I'm not feeling sorry for myself, damn it. I just want to talk about reality, and I'm sharing this because I think there's other patients who deal with this. There's people, this wire is very hard to work with because it's waterproof. You don't normally take this much time to get a cleaner wire. But I think other people deal with these things, and not just people who have sudden severe illnesses. Suicide rate is quite high in people who retire. In the first, I think it's the first 5 years, the suicide rate is very high. So that's the kind of thing, you know, they start to feel worthless. All right, got those off. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that topic. I'll be quiet about that. Okay, almost through the finish line here. Oops, I'm missing. I need a screwdriver. I had one. I must have left it inside. I brought a brand new wired, it's called a lineman's tool. It was like 20 bucks. This is a very old one. And the thing fell apart. And I went to return it, and it had a 30-day warranty that was expired. And I thought, well, that stinks. And I pulled out this really old one, and it actually works quite well. So I got a ground. That's why I need a screwdriver. I want to turn this off, but I'll go get a screwdriver. I need to ground this ground wire to the box because it's a metal box. And then I am done. I am done with wiring. Well, I want to thank you for coming along again this month. I changed my format from previous times that, based on feedback I've had, was I'm doing these less often, but I'm doing them with more content, more talking, more explaining. Before I just jumped through it and I was trying to get it within 10 minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if this episode is 30 minutes, but I'm going to put these out once a month. There must be some interest for people. The newspapers come out and do this article about this next week. We'll see if it gets published, but they thought people must be very interested in this topic. I was going to show you, I'm getting ready to put this is a futon frame that goes in the loft. It's been in our basement. It's maple. It's very heavy. I say it's 100 pounds, and I don't know how I'm going to get it up to the loft. This has been one of the issues that I've had all along when you work all by yourself, is trying to get heavy things moved. I think I will put it on the stairs and put some kind of come along to pull it up the stairs and get it up there. But I was just going to show you that. So the wiring is done after 6 weeks. What I will have to do now is next week I'm going to start trenching a ditch that runs down this side. This will probably show up on the next video. Plus a trench from the house up to the telephone pole to run power. And that's going to be take my time next week. Over the next couple of days, I'm going to just be working on cleaning. Excuse me. I'll be having a wiring inspection as soon as I get this trench in and that wire put in. We'll come out and inspect, and I want to make sure all my wiring is clean and neat and on right the best I could. But I really want to tell you that I appreciate you guys coming along. It's very important to me that I have someone to talk to. I'll go up here and say goodbye to my goats. I'm going to take my dog for a hike and pick up some things at the hardware store. Hi guys, you doing okay? Why do you poop on your deck? Huh? You don't mind pooping on your deck? You just go when you feel like it, huh? You guys like sitting out in the sun, don't you? I don't have any treats. I'm sorry, B. Don't have any treats today. I'll bring some treats later, okay? You want to touch noses? I can't reach that far. I can't touch noses unless you jump off. You want to touch noses? You want to touch noses? Okay. You guys have a good day. But again, thank you for coming. And I'll see you again next month.